doing well for themselves. All right, we get 2 calls in just a second, but we got to get it to our main man, Anthony Slater. Anthony Slater joins us on the River Islands guest line, all guests on 95. 7 a game up here on the River Islands guest line. Is it a time for you to discover the islands, River Islands, and Lathrop? And Anthony Slater, of course, our Odyssey Insider, the TK Show. What do you guys call that podcast again? I forgot, man. You got so many podcasts going on right now, Anthony.
Plus minus?
Yeah, plus
there you go.
Plus minus.
Warriors plus minus. I'm not part of the TK Show, I got to admit.
Yeah, no, not anymore. Warriors plus minus with Tim Kawakabe. You were in Oklahoma City last night, correct?
I'm in Oklahoma City right now. I'm in the Oklahoma City airport taking a flight to Houston in about 30 minutes or so.
How long is that flight?
Like 90 minutes, maybe a little bit less.
Oh, that's
the easiest direct. Not too many directs. Not too many directs in the NBA out of Oklahoma City, but this is one of them.
Wow, that's pretty impressive right there. OKC would have an impressive win yesterday over Dallas, so they'll await the winner of tonight's game between the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Look at the OKC and Dallas and what you saw from them, because the Warriors may have to play Dallas on Sunday. We'll see about tonight. But Andrew Wiggins, let's start off with the injury report before we get to all the trade rumors and how the Warriors are playing and what's going on with JK and the lineup and whatnot. Andrew Wiggins, is he good to go today?
I mean, it's not official. I feel like every game now with Andrew Wiggins is like going to warm up pregame. As long as he gets through that, he's fine, right? So he'll probably be questionable up till about 60 minutes to tip. But sounds like trending towards yes. But he's clearly dealing with, all 3 of their, best players and veterans are dealing with some type of nagging injury right now. And Wiggins is like a painful little like inside of his ankle. They're calling it an impingement, which I read is like it's more of a common football injury, actually.
Really? Yeah. So it's not a sprain; it's an impingement. So it's just like pinching his ankle and just bothering him or something.
Yeah, I mean, people could go Google WebMD it if they're truly very interested in. But I just think it's kind of like just like pain, like bone on bone type stuff on like the inside of the ankle.
Exactly. That's something my former co-host would do.
Oh yeah,
the voice of the Niners.
The injury hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I used to listen. What about Steph's knees? What's up with him?
I mean, tendonitis. He's going to play, but they're going to monitor him back-to-backs. I would expect him, most of this season probably to rest one side of back-to-backs. They haven't officially said that, but they've rested him, preemptively on the front side of the last back-to-back. So it just kind of is what it is, right? We talked about it last week, but he's 36 heading towards 37, and his knees ache sometimes.
Well, I was watching in the game Sunday night. I don't want to make it like the end-all be-all, but I thought it was a seminal moment. Late in the game, Dre and Steph kind of like deferred to Jonathan Kuminga on a possession, and he tried to cook Rudy Gobert. He ended up slipping and falling, but you could see both of them kind of point him like, no, you take it. And I thought it was a subtle thing. I don't want to make it like it's the end of the world, but I thought it was kind of like a slight metaphor of like they're starting to seed some of this, not all of it. It's still always going to revolve around those two, but a small portion. They were like empowering Jonathan Kuminga. I thought it was a little moment there. Did you see what I saw?
Kuminga was also pretty adamant post game that he got pushed on that play, and I thought the floor might have been wet. He went skidding across the floor. I know the exact play you're talking about. Yes, I would say, and even more than the seminal moment of that possession, maybe is Draymond Green 2 nights earlier basically announcing to the world that it's time to find out about Jonathan Kuminga and he should start ahead of him, basically. This is like information season right now for the Warriors on Jonathan Kuminga, and not just for the Warriors. It's for Kuminga to find out who he is in the league. The Warriors need to find out. The league needs to find out. He has a contract situation coming up. The trade market's going to develop. You might even argue I think most people would argue they've waited too long to find out more about Jonathan Kuminga. But I think Steph Curry and Draymond Green want to know for several reasons. Can he be all the way up to the playoff level, like the type of number 2 scorer that they're going to need to compete in the first round, second round, third round, or is it wiser for him to maybe go explore that elsewhere? And could he potentially be a trade piece at the deadline? I think we are going to find out more over the next couple months, partly because they finally let off the brake pedal a little bit, and they're going to allow us to all find out more about it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. Anthony Slater here on the River Islands guest line. 27 games until the trade deadline here. So hypothetically, we're hearing Jimmy Butler. We're hearing LeBron again. Let's just start with Jimmy Butler, because Shasky and I are in agreement. I don't think it's a fit here. Maybe you do. Maybe you see an avenue here, because I think it's going to cost, because you have to match the salaries. Jimmy's making $47, $48 million this season with the Miami Heat. What do you think when you hear that stuff, or you read that stuff, Anthony, about Jimmy Butler wanting, hey, Dallas, Houston, and the Warriors? I'd be interested in that. Should the Warriors be interested in Jimmy Butler?
I mean, I think it's worth the conversation because what Jimmy Butler can and has been in the playoffs, right? It's you can trust if healthy, he's going to bring it in the playoffs. And if the Warriors are at a desperate point, in this like late stages of the Steph Curry era, it's a curious thought to at least bounce around, right? The idea of Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry in a playoff series should scare an opponent. Now, you mentioned the financial aspects of all this. I mean, there's a reason Jimmy Butler and the Heat are kind of in a little standoff right now, right? Like Heat don't really seem to want to extend him. He seems to want to be extended. That seems to be why a breakup might be coming. So if he arrives, he'd arrive hand out, right? He has a $50 million player option for next season that he's signaling he wants to decline because he wants to sign bigger, longer-term money. And that's scary at this stage of his career. And beyond all that, I mean, you mentioned it, just because of what the money is and the situation the Warriors are in, it would definitely cost at least Andrew Wiggins. Plus, the Heat are probably going to want a Kuminga, a Pajemski. They were very interested.
Doesn't get along with anyone. Red flag 4, contract 5, and the cost to deal him is 6. Here's the real question. Wasn't the window to trade for one of these guys?
You get to take it into question.
You like that. Wasn't the window to trade like last year at the deadline when you had expiring contracts with Chris Paul and Klay Thompson? Like, it's not now because, to Bonte's point, whatever deal you're doing, you're surrendering one of the assets in Andrew Wiggins, who you need.
Yes, it was either at last year's deadline, like you said, when you had Klay Thompson's expiring, you had Chris Paul, or before Chris, they explored the idea of trading that Chris Paul $30 million, cuttable contract. But Zach LaVine probably would have been the prize in that situation. We don't need to get into his contract, but it's pretty steep too. I mean, that's why I would probably guess that they're going to go a little bit more smaller game hunting. But they are at a situation that like they can't turn their nose down at any situation. They have to internally discuss the idea of any potential, big time player coming available, because there is despite all your red flags, and I'd say I'd probably agree with 5 of them, attitude I'd actually tick as a green flag because I think he is the type of attitude that wins in the playoffs. But I think there's a world where, like, theoretically, you got Jimmy Butler, he's healthy, and suddenly it's May, and he looks awesome again because he's done it about 6 times in his career. So it's at least worth talking about. But, yeah, I mean, it is a lot harder for them now than it was last year, and they declined to trade for a big contract. This is part of the plan that they made.
Anthony, as we're talking to Anthony Slater here on the River Islands Guest Line, does everything for The Athletic. Hell of a writer for The Athletic, Warriors Insider for them, as well as for 95.7 The Game, and, of course, the Plus Minus podcast here at the Odyssey Network. Dennis Schröder is a name we've been kicking around here, who's got an expiring contract, and the De'Anthony Melton contract where he's getting just over $12 million. It feels like that's a fit. Internally, from what you gather from the Golden State Warriors, do you think they're interested in a player like Dennis Schröder?
Yeah, because I think he's definitely a name to watch because he is a playmaker where they can run a little bit of pick and roll. They can score in the second unit, could play next to Steph and score a little bit because he also guards on the other end. He's one of the more I guess pesky Steph defenders in the league, actually. And I think people don't realize like Dennis Schröder is a positive defender. On the perimeter. Again, he can't guard your bigger wings, but he can help on that end. And you mentioned it, $13 million expiring deal. It's a small price, right? You don't have to upend your roster rotation, your draft pick cupboard. Like what would it even cost for Schröder? At most, like a protected first, maybe just a second, depending on what else Brooklyn would theoretically be offered. The money's a little bit tricky because you're right. Melton at 12.8 matches, Schröder at 13, but the Warriors are like bumping right up against the first apron. So it's possible they might have to throw a very small, like minimum deal in it. But, again, whatever. Guy Santos is a minimum deal. Name your player. So that's a much, much easier deal to get done. And I don't know how y'all feel, but I do think Schröder would really help.
I love the fit. I mean, coming in from when Brooklyn came in and hit the 23s and he started dominating, and you've covered the Warriors, Shasky, you've been watching them forever, whether Schröder's in OKC, Atlanta, the Lakers, he always annoys Stephen Curry. He's a pest. He's an agitator. And so that's a move. Once Brooklyn has to say, wait a minute, he's a free agent, maybe that's a guy you could go get without giving up a lot. So I think the fit is perfect. That's the name I'm kind of locked in on here, Shask. I know you got a couple other names as well, but I will ask about the small ball lineup. GP2, Buddy Hield, Draymond, JK. You mentioned JK. Maybe it's a showcase for him. It's definitely an important time for him. How long do you think Steve Kerr goes with the small ball 5 lineup to start games after Friday night where Draymond's talking about coming off the bench, Steph is talking about coming, and then he starts on Sunday. So how long are they going to go with this lineup here as they've started 13 different starting lineups this season?
I don't think he starts it tonight. It might depend on if Sengun is starting or not. But if Wiggins is back tonight, I assume he probably goes back to Looney at the 5, Draymond off the bench with Wiggins, maybe Podziemski and Steph. I think there was a domino effect the other night with no Wiggins, where suddenly you had to start Gary Payton because you needed somebody to guard Anthony Edwards. And then once you start Payton, you need an extra, shooter out there. So they went Buddy Hield, bump Podziemski out. Without Podziemski, you need an extra ball handler. So it's Draymond. There's such a that's kind of the story of the season, but every single Warriors rotation player beyond Steph basically is like limited in one way and great in another way. And like, it feels like this strange puzzle that Steve Kerr's always, having to rearrange. But to answer your question, they're not committed to starting Draymond at center. In fact, they don't want to, right? I mean, they're trying to limit the physical burden on him. So against a guy like Sengun tonight, if Wiggins is there, I wouldn't be surprised if Looney's actually starting.
The correlation to Buddy Hield hitting buckets and the Warriors winning is not just a coincidence to me or random. Like, there's something to this. How do they get this guy playing consistently as well as he has when he's been on? They've been winning. Like, it's very simple. When he is under 10 points, they don't win at all. How do they maintain the excellent shooting?
I mean, they got to play him more, essentially. I mean, a lot of these games recently, because he hit a slump, they stopped playing him. But I don't know, when he isn't hot, it's kind of hard to keep him out there because there's a lot better defensive options. And again, like his special skill set is shooting. It's a little bit like Clay, but when Clay was off the last several years, he goes from like major positive if he's scorching hot to negative if he's not. So, I don't know. I mean, the other thing is, like, his Buddy Hield, like, he's a known commodity, what he is in the league. Like, the conversation you're having about him, I'm sure Sixers radio hosts were having last year, and radio hosts in Indianapolis were, and I'm sure your guys up in Sacramento for years and years and years were talking about this. But, he is a streaky shooter who can win you games for stretches of weeks, as he did to start the season, because he can shoot 50% from 3 on a high volume, but he can also go cold. And if he goes cold, a lot of times coaches look on the bench and try to find somebody else.
His splits are crazy. It's just sad. I can't believe it. 14 wins. He averages 18, as you said, Anthony, 47.5% 3. Anthony, in the losses, 8.5 points per game, 33% from 3. He is that guy there. But by the way, speaking of streak shooters, what did you think of Clay yesterday with Dallas? Where's the takeaway there in the OKC Dallas game?
Yeah, I mean, Clay shot it pretty well. Like, OKC was, really doubling Luka, bothering him. Luka went 5 of 15. Looked bad. I mean, my major takeaway is the Thunder's defense is insane. They are averaging 12 steals a game right now, which is like nobody in like the league in the last like 20 something years has averaged like even 10. They're turning teams over 19.7 times. That hasn't been done in like 28 years, I think. I mean, their defensive disruption is like on another level right now. And, Clay, but part of that was they were leaving Clay open, so he hit some jumpers last night. It looked fine. But also, did you see who he was trying to guard down the stretch of that game?
Isaiah Joe, SGA. It was a problem.
Well, there was times he was getting isolated on Shea, and like it wasn't even crunch time because the Thunder was up enough, but it was like they were putting him away, and it was like this is Dallas's problem, right? Kyrie's on the court, Luke is on the court, Clay's having to get a major defensive assignment here. That's probably what might be the fatal flaw of Dallas.
Dude, did you watch that game last night, Shasky? I mean,
of course I did.
The defense by Caruso and Lou Dort, it's just hellacious defenders, man.
I told like you think I'm not making this up. Like everyone is speculating in Dallas that like Clay is the guy they're going to staple and move on out of town, and it's just wild.
You hear that too, Anthony? About Clay?
I hear people say that they don't believe that Dallas would do that to Clay. They wouldn't lure him there in such a way that they did, an NBA legend, and then immediately turn their back on him. So I would really not expect that to happen. But, it's a ruthless business. I've been surprised before.
So after we win tonight against the Rockets, and I mean me and Bonte, because we're both part of the team, and and then we take on OKC on Saturday and win the cup.
Hold on.
Like, you don't have the guts to ask Steve Kerr, like, where the parade's going to be and where we're going to put the banner up, right?
Well, what would you guys think if they actually did do some type of banner? Because, right, the Lakers did it last year. They almost tried to hide it, but they did it.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
I joke with Mully, was like, hey, they're going to hang that banner right next to your number 17. And he goes, no, they need to hang that banner next to the Canadian flag.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
No,
I wouldn't
seriously.
be mad at that.
Look, you say we. Now, the Warriors lose. I wouldn't mind having Saturday off, and then they play Dallas on Sunday at Chase Center. It keeps Anthony Slater out of Las Vegas. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the streak getting snapped tonight in Houston.
Oh, well, I mean, like, you know, for rest, they had to pack for an 11-day trip when they went to Houston, because theoretically if they win through here to the Cup Finals, they got to go Houston straight to Vegas straight to Memphis, Minnesota. But like you said, they lose the night they're home. Tomorrow they get like 3 days off, probably 2 good practices in. They get a worse Mavericks team than the Thunder team they'd play in Vegas, and they don't have to play that extra game that doesn't actually even matter to the regular season, the final. So there's definitely an argument, considering age, that, you know, losing tonight might be suggestible, whatever you want to say. But, you know, like, they're not going to actually want to do that.
Spoken like a married man. Suggestible. I want the cup.
Shasky wants the cup.
He's
going to buy the hats. He's going to buy the T-shirts.
I want the confetti.
He wants the hats and everything.
Is he going to Vegas? Y'all going live from Vegas?
No.
I'm
getting my Christmas tree, and we might go see Santa if he's up to it.
You know, Shasky's a 3 Christmas tree guy. He gets
Not
how
anymore.
many Christmas trees?
No.
How many Christmas trees do you get in the household, Anthony?
We got a little small one, but the baby's going to be, 2.5 next Christmas, so we'll probably have to start going a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we got the little fake Christmas tree. We haven't gone bigger yet. So,
hey, you know what else is in Vegas next week? So the Cup Finals Tuesday night, Monday Night Football, Falcons Raiders. Y'all don't want to come and do a little doubleheader?
You go see Kirk Cousins, the future quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, no. I'm gonna let y'all smooth into your next segment.
I'm kidding, Anthony. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. Go catch that flight. Should be fun. Hey, man, Ime Udoka's boys are playing well. It's a good team, Houston.
Yeah, and they're gonna want it. That's, to me, the difference that we were just talking about. Like, do the Warriors even want this game? Well, the Rockets are going to hard. And Tari Eason's back. He didn't play in that home game. I think that really matters tonight. I think they're gonna go smaller more often, maybe less Sengun, and really try to, run the Warriors off the floor.
That's what they did to flip the game when the Warriors nearly blew that 31-point lead. Sengun and Fred VanVleet got played off the floor.
The Rockets coming out to play.
They're going to come out, and they're going to probably curse out some referees on the way as well. So, anyway, Slater, go catch that flight, man.
Slates.
Always fun talking to you, brother.
All right, fellas.
Anthony Slater, Warriors insider for the Athletic Plus Minus podcast right here on the Odyssey Network.